Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight to the Smithfield Town Council meeting, Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. There were no executive session votes tonight to disclose. I'd like to have a prayer. We come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Amen.
Amen.
Salute the flag, please. Thank you. Emergency evacuations and health notifications.
Thank you, Council President. There's two main exits from the Town Council chambers. The left of the stage, up the stairs will take you out the back of the building. The back of the council chambers to your right, the stairs will take you out the front of the building. Just past it on the right is the men's facility. Up the stairs to the left is the ladies' facility. Please do not use the elevator in time of emergency.
Thank you, sir. Item 5, presentations. We don't have any tonight. Item 6, minutes. A, move that the minutes of the May 22nd, 2024 open session meeting be approved as recorded.
So moved.
Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item B, move that the minutes of the May 22nd, 2024 executive session meeting be approved as recorded.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item C, move that the minutes of the May 29th, 2024 work session meeting be approved as recorded.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item D, move that the minutes of the June 4th, 2024 executive session meeting held pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42-46-5A2, potential litigation, and Section 42-46-5A1, personnel, to interview Albert Nanny and Stephanie Howell for possible reappointment to a town board or commission be approved as recorded and sealed.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
E, move that the minutes of the June 4th, 2024 open session meeting be approved as recorded.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Appointments. Consider, discuss, and act upon the following possible appointments and reappointments. We have the planning board reappointment with a term expiring in May of 2027.
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council reappoint Albert E. Nanny to the Planning Board with a term expiring in May of 2027.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item E, Economic Development Commission reappointment with a term expiring in March of 2027.
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council reappoint Stephanie Howell to the Economic Development Commission with a term expiring in March of 2027.
So, second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 8, public hearings. Conduct a public hearing on a proposed fiscal year 2025 budget. If you'd like to come up to the podium, just state your name and your address. I declare this public hearing open.
Council President, if you don't mind, I'd just like to say a few things, and we can get into the rest of it, if that's all right. I want to start off, I know a lot of them are here. I want to thank all of our directors that helped and worked hard to get us to this point and got us a budget that we were able to pass on to the Budget and Financial Review Board. And then they started the heavy lift after that. And I want to thank those members that are here for helping get us to this point. I know, it takes time and energy to get us somewhere and make sure to focus on providing all the services that are necessary for the town and address our long-term needs and the infrastructure needs. So I know it's been tough and we got to a very good point. And I know that there's some members of the board here as well, but I just wanted to say those things, Mr. President, before we get into it.
Thank you very much. Anyone like to speak on the budget? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Pleasure of the council.
Are there any changes to the budget since we received it from the Budget and Financial Review Board?
No, sir.
Is there going to be any change relative to the impact fees?
There could be, if the council so chooses to make a motion to add $300,000 of revenue from impact fees and reduce taxation by $300,000 and maintain the budget as funded.
Sounds good, so moved.
Second.
Any more discussion on this?
Yes, so I would like to propose that we take out the $53,000 line item for the chief of staff position. The reasons include, as I've mentioned before, there is no objective data proving the need to create this open position.
A point of order, Mr. President. I thought we were talking about Mike's amendment. He put an amendment on the floor,
You put a motion in.
Right.
put a motion, we're looking for a second.
Motion and a second.
I seconded it.
Okay, so that's for discussion before we get to the next item, correct?
Discuss on that and then,
Yeah, basically, what this would do is reduce the tax impact on the residents, because this budget has quite a large percentage-wise tax rate increase in it. And I had a discussion with the town manager. I'm looking for ways to reduce the impact of that. So this would reduce the increase, the tax increase from 81 cents to 71 cents per thousand.
1 second, please.
Anthony, I have a question on that. Under the charter, is that permissible to use the impact fees for tax reduction?
Depends what you're using them, depends what aspect of the budget.
So specifically, the impact fees were set to be used for the roadways. Roadways is a piece of the impact fees, and those funds could be used towards the highway. So in turn, the offset to keep the budget as is would be to reduce taxation as the offset. It's not so much an exchange for one for the other, but the net result. But it can be allocated for that on a large chunk of.
Can be or should be?
Can be, and it's up to the council to do it.
You want to amend your motion, Mike?
I made my motion. I think the reason for my motion is if we have money sitting around and we can use it, let's use that money instead of taxing the residents.
No, I get that, but I guess what Randy was just saying is about the roadways. You want that money used for the roadways to reduce the
Yes,
tax.
that would just be, it would just substitute for the monies that we've already allocated for the roadways.
I just want to be clear.
Vice President, can you repeat the motion, please?
The
Lynn.
motion is to take $300,000 from the impact fees and transfer them as a substitute for for a portion of the money allocated for the roadways.
Thank you.
So will the roadway
So this is-
not be fixed?
No, it's just a substitute of the money. We'd have the same exact amount of money being spent on the roadways, which need to be fixed. The roads in this town really need to be worked on.
So you have a motion and a second. You had discussion on the motion. Any more discussion on the motion?
This is not approving the budget, correct?
No.
Thank you.
So we're just going to vote on his
On
amendment?
his amendment.
So all in favor of that proposal?
Aye.
Aye.
And more discussion? Or do we have a motion on the budget?
So as I was trying to say before, I would like to amend the budget by taking out the $53,000 line item for the chief of staff position. The reasons include, as I've said before, there is no objective data proving the need to create this position. There is no job description, plus there is ambiguity surrounding what the official job title would be called and what the job duties will be. Third, there is no long-term plan. Let me be clear, I am not concluding that the town manager position does not need a support role. What I am saying is that the proper due diligence has not been done to prove that the creation of this position is warranted. A needs assessment should be conducted to get to the crux of the issue here. We won't know what that is until we do our research. This may potentially be solved another way that is not on taxpayer dime, especially in a year when we are considering raising taxes. In my opinion, it may be irresponsible to spend one more dollar of taxpayer money without the proper data to back it up. I don't think any corporation, any business in town or in general would be adding a position without proving the need. And I would like to thank the budget board, our finance director, the town manager, and all of the department heads for their efforts in putting together a fiscally responsible, honest budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to make a motion to, would it be another amendment? To amend the budget to take out this position of the chief of staff for the reasons that I had mentioned.
Reduce the budget by
And reduce the budget by 50,
whatever.
that's that line item, yes, correct.
Second.
Any more discussion on that? I think we do need the position, so I'll be voting against that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
Nay. Any more discussion on the budget?
I would like just to mention some of the items that have resulted in where we are today with our budget. Our tax increase on our citizens is, I think it's just over 5% at this point. This year, and I thank the budget board for doing such a thorough analysis on this. We've had approximately $800,000 increase in debt service payments. The school department renovations at the elementary schools is now impacting the budget. We have serious capital needs in our middle school and in our high school. We cannot let these buildings keep deteriorating, and so we've allocated several $100,000 to begin the process of bringing these schools up to the standard that they should be. We also, we have more students leaving and going to other districts than we have students coming into our district. Because as you know, students can go to school pretty much wherever they want if there is a program that we don't have here. And so we're trying to develop a culinary program here, and it takes money to do that. And I think it's important to have those programs here because we want to keep our high school attractive to students so that they're not going out of district and we have to pay for them to go out of district. I think that the quality of our schools is a reflection on our whole community, or reflects our property values. I think it's very important to keep up our schools. Years and years of neglect have now built up, and so we're at this point. So we must begin to increase the quality of these school buildings. We also have a lot of wage pressure now. We've had inflation. We've had inflation of 22% over the last 5 years. Yet, we've not had corresponding increases in our budget. Our budget increases, our tax increases have been in 2019, 0%. 2020, minus 4.27. 2021, 0. 2022, 1.9. 2023, 0. 2024, 2.69. Yet we've had 22% increase of inflation in our economy. This cannot be sustained. And so this is the year where all of this has come and hit us with this impact. And that's why we have this increase. We've had to negotiate new contracts with our firefighters, our police. Just our fire department expenditures, we had a $300,000 increase there. We had a $17,000 increase in the pension contributions that we've had to make. We have present one pension, we have the old pensions that were underfunded. We have a $547,000 increase in wages and et cetera for the police department. We cannot find police officers. It's not like in the old days where people, we'd have a line down the street for young people who wanted to become police officers. We have a hard time getting firefighters. We need to keep the ones that we have. And with this kind of inflation, that puts a pressure on wages. That impacts the budget. We've had our highways our roads have not been kept up. We are way behind on our roads, and we're trying to put a little more money every year into the roads to try and catch up and at least get to a point where they're at least maintained. Then we've also, of course, had increases in the amount we have to put in our retiree pension plans. I mean, a lot of these are, required by law. We can't have huge unfunded liabilities, which would result in, a bond rating drop. So we're facing many challenges this year, and that is the reason for this kind of increase in our budget. So what are we going to do next year? Well, we've begun to look at, hopefully, I'd like to see the budget board look at our, tax rates across the board to see if they are an appropriate rate of taxes. Look at our revenues. What we have done and are doing is we're going to combine the parks portion of Parks and Recreation with our Public Works. We think that will save us some money by co-use of a lot of the vehicles that both of these departments use. We are looking at additional revenues from our new agreement, which we're still finalizing with Bryant University, to get a payment in lieu of taxes that is higher than what we've gotten in the past, which has been very little. We are going to look at our park fees to see how they compare with other communities. And finally, we're also going to be looking at our libraries to see if we can save money in the way we administer them. Perhaps we can have better administration of those libraries by combining the administration of both of them and having two branches. So these are the things we're looking at going forward. And hopefully, this will result in not so big tax increases or perhaps no tax increases down the road. But I think, to just ignore all of these problems would be irresponsible. We have to address these problems because they're not going to get any better. They're only going to get worse. And so we feel that this budget is a responsible budget that addresses the many problems that we've uncovered in the town.
I would like to echo that, and I do also think this is an honest budget. The budget board, again, along with the finance director, town manager, and department heads, did an excellent job. There wasn't a lot of fat to cut. And I'll end with saying this. I think the public needs to demand that the town and your elected officials stop rushing things through and do the proper due diligence. As you can see here, we can only do so much. Thank you.
Did everyone get it all out? Motion to approve the budget as amended, please.
We have a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
I'm sorry. Item B, conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon amendments to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, entitled Boards and Commissions. Oh, no, we just did that, sorry. Item C, conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon zoning ordinance amendments. I apologize. Conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon amendments to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, entitled Boards and Commissions, sponsored by council members Rachel Toppy and Michael Ianardi.
Yeah, Mr. President, there's been a little, couple of changes to the original proposed amendment. Instead of amending our boards and commission section, it makes more sense because this would apply to the entire town, not just the boards and commissions, to create a new Chapter 29 entitled Code of Ethics would be added. And what this Code of Ethics would do would supplement the Rhode Island Code of Ethics, which we are already following, and add some additional provisions. And where these, we also eliminated number 2 because that was already covered by the Rhode Island Code of Ethics.
When was this eliminated?
It's a proposed amendment.
It's a proposed amendment to the original,
We don't have that, do we?
Yes.
yeah, it's on the second section there. That's as amended.
Okay.
Each of these provisions are designed, I mean, these didn't just come out of thin air. They're designed to address problems that both Councilwoman Toppy and myself have actually seen happen over not only the last 2 years, but I think over many years, and to try and avoid some of these issues that are not covered by the Rhode Island Code of Ethics. We'd like to have a tougher code of ethics in Smithfield than exists in the Rhode Island Code. And that's why, you know, we'd like to see, especially with respect to our planning and zoning boards, which are quasi-judicial boards, whenever they've received anything from an applicant greater than $100 in the prior 18 months, we would like to see them recuse themselves from deciding an application. We'd like to make sure that our town manager, department directors, and deputy directors aren't testifying as paid experts in proceedings outside of their official town duties. We'd like to see our elected and appointed officials not using their positions to gain an advantage over any other individual or group of individuals with which they have a property, contractual, or other item of financial dispute. And we don't want any intimidation by our elected officials against any whistleblowers. So these things we feel will make Smithfield even better than our cities and towns that are just following the Rhode Island Code of Ethics.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so we're going to do that first, then we'll discuss. Anybody from the public would like to speak on this? I declare the public hearing open. State your name and address, please.
Carrie Lawton, 10 Sprague Street. I'm just concerned with, I own a business in town, and as you guys know, my husband is a member of a board and commission. Does this mean that nobody on any board or commission within the town of Smithfield can do business with me as a business owner? Is that what this is driving at?
No, that doesn't mean that.
Okay, because the way the original one that I got a copy of was very vague as to you will benefit, him or her will benefit. I will always benefit because I will always make money off whatever business anyone does with me. So the first printout I got was that sentence was very vague. And I just want to make sure that was that part of what was removed?
I think I think you're referring to the nepotism section,
Yes,
and I think it says they would use their office to benefit.
okay, because,
And that's the only reason
Okay.
there would be a violation.
okay, I just want to make sure that you guys are not saying that nobody in town can do business with me.
No.
Okay.
No.
Definitely not.
Mr. Cologne, can I have an
Thank you,
inquiry?
Ms. Lawton.
Can I inquire about something really quick? Just because I just need to make sure that I'm reading this correctly, because what it looks like is the current ethics code that we have already has the sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The proposal that's in front of me, doesn't look like anything's added, just section 2 is striked. Am I looking at this correctly?
All of it is added, except for section 2.
This is gonna be a town ordinance.
It's going to be a
That's the public
town
hearing.
ordinance.
Okay.
And then have discussion. Anybody else from the public like to speak? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and then we can discuss.
Sean, are you finished?
Not really. I don't think I received an answer for it. So this whole entire Chapter 11, we do not currently have Chapter 11 in our books.
Chapter 29.
Chapter 29, okay.
We do not have it.
We do not have it. We defer to the state and their ethic guidelines for it. Is this verbatim what the state's ethic
No,
guidelines
we
calls for?
still defer to the state, except that these are additional requirements that would only apply to our town.
Who's going to police this?
Basically, this would be policed by it depends upon who is the violator. If it's the town, if it's a director or a board or commission, it would be policed by the town manager.
If there's a violation, in the past, it goes to the Rhode Island Board of Ethics they're the superseding body, we're not, right?
Right.
So we have 55 pages of ethics, state ethics. I called the Ethics Commission and I asked them, if we pass something like this, will they oversee it? And the answer is no.
No, we're going to oversee it.
Well,
It's
let me
a
finish.
personnel question.
Right. So my suggestion would be, before we do pass this, send this to the Personnel Board and have them review it before we vote on it and move it forward. Because they would know what's in the current personnel rules and regs. And if something is not right, or something is the same as what they have in the personnel rules, then we can fix it.
The
That would
person,
be my recommendation, that would be my motion. We move this to the Personnel Committee before we do anything.
I think that would make sense, but I also, to that point, that I'd also want to add in is to the question of enforcement. When we look at the structure in terms of the web of the town, I think it puts our town manager in a unique position where he's asked to police the people that he works for.
No, basically, if the town, it would keep the same structure of the town. If the town manager were to commit a violation, or the town clerk, that would be under the town, that would be up to the town council to enforce that.
along
If
with
it's
boards and
If it's
commissions.
a board or commission, that's also the town council,
Correct.
because the town council is the appointing authority.
I'm speaking about what if a council person hypothetically was to violate the ethics? Who is in to enforce that code?
Here, the voters.
Well, naturally, but also the state, that the state ethics code has a policy
We also
for
have
it.
a provision under the charter.
Provision under the
with respect
charter
to
as well.
Council members, where if they cease to meet the qualifications for their offices, a hearing process.
I think if we're more worried about who's going to police this rather than trying to add another layer of protection against government who is, and I'm not saying any of you, of course, but in general, government is known for corruption, I don't think that just doesn't seem like a good argument. And I don't see how the Personnel Board deals with job description. I don't know how they would have anything to do with this. They don't report boards and commissions, we don't report to them, they report to us. So I'm not sure.
I don't think it's so much of a question as, I mean, obviously, everyone is in favor with upholding the highest ethical standards provision with the law. I think my line would be is, do we have the ability as a town to pass an ordinance that may or may not supersede a state ethical code?
It doesn't supersede it, it supplements it. And other towns have done so, and I think we should do it also.
I think, I mean, when I was sworn in, I gave an oath. Boards and commissions, they get sworn in, they give their oath to be ethical. And I just don't agree with this. That's my personal opinion.
I mean, obviously, I made a motion, I don't know if I got a second, but the thing is, I would like to have someone else take a look at this before we do it.
I'll second Councilman Tassoni's motion to send it to the Personnel Board.
I think the Personnel Board, do you think the Personnel Board would even have jurisdiction over this? I mean, we are in a situation,
Absolutely
we're
not.
talking about the town manager, department directors, and deputy directors.
They get into exempt versus non-exempt, classified pay.
Yeah, I don't think that would, I don't think the Personnel Board would be the appropriate place. I
Again,
think this is
So
really a
if a-
question for the legislature of the town.
If an ethics, if someone, let's say against me, I took $200 and they put a ethics complaint against me, Rhode Island Board of Ethics, they're gonna get it as well. Who is gonna do the trial for me if I did that? Who's gonna decide that I was unethical? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Very vague.
I think we have a very great system set up with the state of Rhode Island that every town follows. And I don't see the need.
I don't think the
Supplemental.
system that we have set up with the state of Rhode Island is so great.
Well,
I think we've had, we've had hearings in this town where, and I'm talking about over a long period of time, where the public has felt that things are not going the way they should. It's not up and up. And, I think this is very simple. It doesn't talk about you receiving, it's talking about people on boards and commissions. We have boards and commissions, such as the Planning and Zoning Board, that are actually making quasi-judicial decisions, which are appealed to the Superior Court. They have to make a record. That's a very big responsibility. And if they're getting money or receiving things from an applicant, then they need to recuse themselves. And this would simply require that they recuse themselves. And I think the enforcement would be by that committee and by the council that's appointed to make sure that that committee is following all the rules, regulations, and laws. And that's the only enforcement right there. And that should end it right there, where the attorney for that committee would say that that board or commission member would not be able to vote on that item. These other items, basically, this is a town manager thing about testifying as paid experts. That's pretty much our guideline. We don't want our directors going and testifying in other people's cases before other planning boards or zoning boards.
how come? How come? What?
I think it brings down their professionalism. I really do. And they're paid by the town, and I think that their loyalty and energy should be toward the town that they work for, this town.
and again, this came about because of specific examples in the town that we saw with our own eyes. So how this helps us, especially the town council, when it comes to boards and commissions, it gives us an exact avenue to say, okay, you violated this, now, there's consequences. But when before, it was sort of vague and, you had to go through a lot of interviews. And I did just look up the personnel board on the town of ordinances, and this board, the duties of the personnel board is to recommend to the town council a pay plan for non-unionized management employees of the town. That's number one. The second one is revisions or amendments to the town's personnel ordinance and personnel rules and procedures as deemed appropriate for advisable by the board. This has nothing to do with that, unfortunately. So I don't see how this would help us in any way. It's only going to delay. That's not the duties of the board at all.
There's a motion and a second to move it to the
I
personnel
mean, it's
board.
totally pointless to do that, in my opinion.
Well,
just
It's your
read it.
opinion.
Well, I'm reading the ordinance. That's not their job.
Interpret that second part as how you're interpreting it. Read it again.
Revisions or amendments to the town's personnel ordinance and personnel rules and procedures. This is not this is boards and commissions as well.
Personnel.
We're not personnel, we're elected officials, and they're appointed officials. This is not personnel. We need
Motion
to,
and a second. I call a vote.
We're also telling employees what they can and cannot do. It's not our power. It's the town managers, but it's a whole nother. All right, we have any more discussion on that? All those in favor?
Sorry, mind-boggling.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we voting on the, what are we voting?
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. I don't want to vote.
Can you repeat the motion?
Yeah, repeat the motion,
To
please.
send this to the personnel board. Councilman Tassoni made the motion, I second.
He second.
And any more discussion? We had a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right. Moving on to C, conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon zoning ordinance amendments to Article 2 entitled definitions. What's that?
Oh, no, I wasn't talking to you, sorry.
I declare this public hearing open. You want to give an explanation of what we're doing when, yeah. The next 5 items are this matter, right?
Yes, yes. Mike Phillips, Town Planner. There are 5 separate amendments, 5 sections of the zoning ordinance, and these are all being proposed to bring our ordinance into compliance with recent changes to state law. The first one, Article 2, definitions. Specifically, we have adaptive reuse, which is a new definition, changes to the land development project definition, and variance definition. So if you want to
Okay.
tackle these individually.
We have to have a public hearing on each item? Yes. All right, thank you. All right, so the public hearing is open on this. State your name and your address, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Hodgkins, 200 Farnham Pike. Do the legislative changes require the deletion of the definition for adult entertainment in our zoning ordinance?
I don't know. Mike,
It's
can you come up to the podium? Thank you very much.
crossed out.
It's crossed out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a typo. It shouldn't be crossed out. It was just the adaptive reuse got moved up into that number, and it erroneously struck it, so disregard that.
So it's adult entertainment / adaptive.
No, it's not. It's a mistake that adaptive reuse follows adult entertainment in the definition section.
It's a new category of use.
It's a new category of use. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, just to finish, I think if you add on that, if the motion was to say that you'd add in that category and then the rest of the definitions will fall back a number consecutively for the rest of the section, just so it's clear.
Thank you.
Kenneth Souza. I'm not here to talk about numbers for a change, thank God. I've been very disappointed in the town for some things that previous town councils did in relation to the things we're talking about during these 6 or so. I just wrote it down. I'm going to keep this piece of paper. So I'm hoping, solicitor, every single one of these changes is conforming Because when I saw this in the paper, I'm like, okay, well, now what's going on? All right, and we all know what we're talking about here. Are these changes just to kind of put it in alignment with state law? We just found one mistake, okay?
Make it consistent with the new legislation.
Agreed. I just want to make sure, clarifying it for the record, that there's nothing being slipped into here, okay, like we
And
all
I'm
know.
trying even to help them a little bit.
I know, but Sean, we're all taxpayers and residents. I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, so, and we found a mistake, and mistakes happen, and I just want to make sure that we're okay with that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
All right, we'll close the public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Article 2 entitled Definitions as amended with the added column for adaptive use and the numbers to go and to correspond with the appropriate line item.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Item B, conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon zoning ordinance amendments to Article 3 entitled Nonconformance. I declare this public hearing open.
Once again, this section deals with non-conforming lots, substandard lots, merger of lots, and some existing by special use permit, and there's just some minor wording changes in there, so.
Now, are these groups of, we have a group of changes here, several public hearings on them. Is this the first round, or are there more to come?
There will be more to come. The planning board is going to be taking up some other ones. The big one is going to be the special use permit uses that we changed to no's. We're going to have to go through all of those and develop criteria for them and make sure we comply with law there. So that's something that's yet to be tackled, so.
Where do they stand with that, Mike? Because you need specific and objectable criteria for every special use permit.
Yeah, I mean, there are some suggested changes that our consultant has put forward so that we can kind of like a shopping list of some of the main use categories, and they have some criteria that we can plug in and play with numbers, and so it's not going to be like, you know, started from scratch, so we have a basis. In our, like I said, I think before, our ordinance is a lot better than many. We do have a lot of uses that do have criteria, and we can move things around and develop them, I think, pretty quickly.
Do any of these changes conflict with our comprehensive plan?
There are aspects in this is one thing that's being debated right now at the legislative level, is the adaptive reuse section that, you know, makes, you know, residential uses in, you know, allowable in commercial districts everywhere. And you could find any number of conflicts in the comp plan based on that. Every comp plan, every zoning ordinance in the state.
So, under state law, we're not supposed to pass amendments to our ordinances that conflict with our comprehensive plan. But because the state passed these changes, we have to pass them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then you're going to have to amend your comprehensive plan.
Yeah, is there a plan, that's my next question. Is there a plan to amend our comprehensive plan to match these changes?
That's going to have to be the next thing that we do, but we're going to have to wait for the, you know, when the legislature finally finishes with this next round of amendments, see where we're at. Right now, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't even begin to do it.
But we still have to wait because the governor hasn't either approved, or denied, or vetoed any of them yet. So we might be putting the cart before the horse.
But these, the changes we're voting on tonight were from last year's legislative session.
Right.
Now you're going to have a whole new
Yeah.
slew of
Right.
new ones that are coming through this year.
Right.
It's all just playing a game of catch-up.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Pleasure of the council.
Full passage.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, item E, conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon zoning ordinance amendments to Article 4 entitled Use Regulations. I declare this public hearing open.
Again, this is the one dealing with the new section on adaptive reuse. It has a number of different sections and, you know, density provisions, And again, this is a completely new section.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about this one because this would allow residential occupation of commercial areas, which I think can present health and safety issues. And for that reason, I've proposed an amendment, a new section H, to add after G, before section 2, which would state that no project under this section shall be approved without a written certification from the fire chief that said project meets the requirements necessary to ensure the health and safety of the residents that will reside therein, and that the applicant shall be responsible for obtaining said certification.
I'd second that.
We're still in the public hearing. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Pleasure of the council.
I'd move to amend, to add the section 8 as I just read it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item F, conduct a public hearing. We just did.
That was just given.
That was just the amendment.
Said as
You
amended.
said it with the amendment.
You said as amended.
Yeah.
I thought he had to make the motion.
Well, why don't we clarify? I move passage of this section as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No, I totally understand. Item, we're on G, right? Yes. No, F.
F.
Conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon zoning ordinance amendments to Article 6 entitled Supplementary Regulations. Declare this public hearing open.
And this section amends supplementary use regulations, specifically land development projects, new section for unified development review and development plan review.
Close the public hearing. Pleasure of the council.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion on this?
What does this mean? What does unified development review mean?
Unified development is where the planning board would assume the responsibility of granting variances, special use permits, and/or use variances for projects that involve, if there are subdivisions that need variances or land development projects, they would be the body to grant those variances and special use permits, rather than the zoning board.
So all the action would take place in the planning board
Correct.
instead of going to two boards?
Yes.
So in essence, the zoning board review now, as far as the jurisdiction and powers, is going to be limited to simple dimensional variances
Yep.
and appeals from decisions of administrative officers.
Yep.
Now, it says a public hearing is required on these variances,
Yes.
or special uses.
Yep.
Good. I'll close the public hearing. Pleasure of the council.
Move.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item G, conduct a public hearing to consider and act upon zoning ordinance amendments to Article 10 entitled Administration, Enforcement, and Relief. Declare this public hearing open.
This section deals with modifications that can be granted by the zoning official, and some of those administrative functions of the building official and zoning official.
On B3, crossed out is the section that says the modification requested is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. So we're going to pass modifications that are not in harmony with our comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances? That doesn't really make sense to me.
That's going to head back to the Supreme Court eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
It basically nullifies, like, it's
doesn't
inconsistent with the
make any sense.
comprehensive plan, the
I
zoning
I mean,
ordinance.
modifications are typically, like side yard or frontage, very small percentage changes in side yard or setback relief. I wouldn't think that they would rise to the level of a modification that would be, you could find was inconsistent with a comp plan. So that's the only thing I can think of that they.
Mike, we got somebody who wants to speak.
Tom Hodgkins, 200 Farnham Pike. I understand that in the rest of these, we're, being forced to do this because politicians in Providence don't think that the people of Smithfield should be able to make decisions for themselves. But this particular change concerns taking power away from the zoning board, which is appointed by the elected town council, and putting it in the hands of the unelected and unaccountable official. In my view, that should be limited as much as possible. And this goes further than we're required to by the law. The law requires towns only to permit the official for modifications that are 15% or less. This goes further than that and goes all the way up to 25%. We're not required to do that under the legislative changes that took place January 1st. I think it would be a bad practice for the council to change the zoning ordinance and take more power away from the zoning board than is required by the legislative changes that were made earlier this year. One of the other changes that this legislation makes is to limit the public notice and public response time to 14 days. In our ordinance, it's 30 days. If we were to keep it at 30 days, that would not conflict with state law because it would be giving more public notice than required by the law. So it would be consistent with the plan to keep it at 30 days. And then finally, on the comment earlier, it's clear that the law requires compliance with any changes to be in compliance with the comprehensive land use plan and with the rest of the zoning ordinance. I don't see why we would take that out of B3. And then further in your ordinance, it's paragraph D here. On the first page of the changes, you have paragraph C crossed out. I assume that's a mistake because paragraph C is going to stay, and then paragraph D would stay D as it is currently, but D also includes that the official may apply special conditions to the permit as in the opinion of the official be required to conform to the intent and purposes of the zoning ordinance. So that's consistent. I don't know why we'd take out what's in number 3. If the council would like to look at it, I have a copy of the law as it was amended on January 1st with regards to the 15%.
Hand that up to the clerk, please.
Yes. It's on the bottom of the first page in yellow. Thank you.
What are your thoughts on the 15%, Anthony? 25.
May permit up to 25, so we're not going to permit.
You don't have, so it's not mandatory, it's discretionary.
So we're going to send this back.
You could-
Can you send this back to the planning board?
Yeah.
This whole thing?
Right. Ask them.
Right.
Sorry.
No, I said the 25% discretion, it's not mandatory.
Yes,
So
the
we can-
15% is
no.
mandatory. You
Right,
may
correct.
go up to
Correct.
25%. So this amendment is going further than you need
Correct.
to. So if all we're doing is making this comply with state law as of Jan 1, you just make it
Have the
15%.
strictest standard.
Right, yeah, and I've asked the planning board to pretty much keep, if we have any flexibility, to exercise that flexibility in favor of the town and the planning board keeping as much control as possible. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Anthony, would it make sense to continue this public hearing? And
I think what we should do is send this back to the planning board.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
have them re-look at this section. And send us a new recommendation.
Keep the public hearing open.
but can you,
This whole section.
I think part of the issue is that I think the 25% is existing in the ordinance now. So that would have to be a change from how it
Yeah.
exists, so.
Well, I think if we're going to take out things like harmony with the comprehensive plan, which I'm not sure we should, and we're going to, reduce public hearings in case of modifications, I think that perhaps we want to go down to 15%.
We
Yeah,
can amend it anyway, because
Yeah.
it's before the council.
Yeah, you can amend
Make
it
that
right here.
change. No,
Right,
Without sending it back?
well, we
Yeah.
want to send it
Yeah.
back for an advisory
yeah,
recommendation.
just change it.
Okay, so sending it to them with the revised suggestion that it be 15%
With the state law.
with the state law?
Public hearing's still open. Mike Banya.
Sorry, I know this is my second time up. I just have a qualification. The 25%, 10.3A, the 25% pertains to dimensional requirements regarding parking, signs, landscapes, and other requirements. The way I read the changes are, these are any dimensional requirements. So this is a much broader power than is currently in there for the 20, it's a totally different animal than what's in there for the 25%. So we don't have 25% right now. You can do whatever you want, the zoning official change. So it's a much bigger change than what's in the ordinance now.
Absolutely right.
All right, we'll close the public hearing and then table this, or
No, we're going to send it back.
what are we doing?
We could continue the public hearing on this until.
I just closed the public hearing.
Oh, all right. No, so we can. All right, so we can send it back to the planning board for an advisory recommendation. We'd have to re-advertise it. That's fine. It doesn't matter.
Better off just doing it in that manner. You can make the motion to send it back to the planning board, for review and then forward it back.
All right. So I move that, that we disapprove of this amendment to our zoning ordinance and that we send it back to the planning board for a further recommendation, and that they explore whether the 25% modification trigger should be reduced to 15%.
Second.
Consistent with
General
Rhode Island General Law 45-24-46.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item H, conduct a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act upon approving the transfer of a B vitrular license from Douglas Eatery LLC DBA Twin River Pizzeria, Crazy Wings Thai Cafe located at 55 Douglas Pike, Suite 104, to Thai Cafe LLC DBA Thai Cafe, same location, to include outdoor seating, bar service, with the hours of operation to be Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, certificate of occupancy, and final approval from the Rhode Island Department of Health. I declare this public hearing open. State your name and your address if you'd like to speak.
I'm from Thai Cafe, Sang Duongpan. Hi, everybody. I actually live in Massachusetts, but the address is 55 Douglas Pike. Just here to introduce myself and answer any questions anybody may have, any concerns.
So you're taking these three different
It's-
restaurants, making them wow.
It's one
excellent.
location.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of kind of weird thing. It's one location that sells, chicken wings as well as pizza, but our main focus is going to be Thai cuisine, but, same concept.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
Thank you. Everything in order?
And just for the record, the debt has been satisfied.
Okay, great, great. Well, we wish you luck.
Thank you.
All
everybody.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to move.
I gotta close the public hearing, sorry. All right.
Motion to move.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to licenses. Consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new vitrilene license, Thai Cafe LLC DBA Thai Cafe, located at 55 Douglas Pike, Suite 104, as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, certificate of occupancy, and final approval from the Rhode Island Department of Health.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item B, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a one-day special event license for the Smithfield Recreation Department for a food truck event. Thursday, July 25th, 2024, food truck event to be held from 4 PM to 8 PM.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
C, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new mobile food truck license for Farm to Sandwich LLC DBA Farm to Sandwich to sell hamburgers and sandwiches from a truck with Rhode Island Reg 45029, located at 1143 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new vitrilene-only license for Smithfield Pizza House LLC DBA Smithfield Pizza House, 345 Waterman Ave, Unit C, with the hours of operation be 6 AM to 2 AM, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, a certificate of occupancy, and final approval from the Rhode Island Department of Health.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Item E, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new sidewalk sales license for Blackbird Farm LLC DBA Blackbird Farm to hold a farmer's market every Sunday beginning June 23rd, 2024 through September 29th, 2024, with the hours of operation being 10 AM to 2 PM on property located at 660 Douglas Pike, as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
Move passage.
Seconded.
I just got a question. Is this in the parking lot? I'm sorry, is this in the parking lot, like where the,
Yeah, we had the same question last year.
I did, okay, sorry, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item F, consider, discuss, and act upon approving an application for a temporary extension of a Class D full privilege licensed premises for the Smithfield Sportsman Club to include its parking lot located at 14 Walter Carey Road for their annual field day to be held Sunday, September 15th, 2024, from 9 AM to 8 PM, as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, and conditional upon the alcohol crowd control agreement with the Smithfield Police Department. The rain date will be Sunday, September 22nd, 2024.
Move passage.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business, there is none. New business. Consider, discuss, and act upon an appropriation and tax levy resolution for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025.
Thank you, Council President. So this item solidifies what the action on the budget earlier this evening. And I would just ask that in the motion to add to approve on the motions and resolutions as amended based on the actions earlier this evening.
I'd like to make a motion with the approved amendments from the prior item.
Okay. We have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
All right. Consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a request for proposals for sale of town-owned property located at 321 George Washington Highway, AP 48, Lot 51. This is a request for proposal.
Chief Seltzer, Fire Department. So what you have in front of you is the property that we own at 321 George Washington Highway that was originally purchased for a fire station. We are working with a property owner at 341 George Washington Highway and working on an agreement for an existing building and property to add on a new station. As you know, this has been an ongoing, long-going project. Unfortunately, when we started this project, pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic occurred and the prices went crazy. Just quickly on the new project we're working on, the good part is that we're looking at coming in what we were originally budgeted to do. So we're working on the details for that, so that's good news. And the property at 321 George Washington Highway at sale will certainly go back into the fire station project, which the money came out of initially, and we have had several people already inquire about it, so it will sell, I'm sure.
Good. How much did we pay for the land?
$275.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Discussion?
Do we have a grant for this project?
We have a public safety infrastructure grant that we were awarded through the governor's office for $1 million. And that was recently awarded.
And the new project is going to be the renovation of an existing building? Is that's owned by a company right now?
It's owned by a person who's also a contractor. And so it's going to have the fire station, if you will, the apparatus bays and living quarters will be all new. And then the other part of the building we renovated for headquarters, and we're going to move fire alarm into that building also later. So work that we were going to do on the headquarters station will not be necessary to do now. So we're going to save money on the future of that project.
So the Putnam Pike project would be smaller.
It's going to be much
Because of
smaller, yes.
I have a motion.
And a second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item C, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a bid award for emergency medical services billing.
So this is the RFP you had approved previously. The numbers came back. I'm pretty happy to present the numbers that we did receive. So the company we had been working with, who we're working with presently, is at 6% fee for all of our ambulance billing. The company that came in that was suggesting with the bid is a company called Comstar LLC, and they're at 3.5% for 3 years in a row. So there's no change in that. Right now, this year, we're gonna bring in roughly $1.3 million in EMS billing. So from going to a 6% fee to 3.5 is a significant savings there on the fees we have to pay for the service. I also had an opportunity to meet with these people at a professional development seminar and discuss some of the issues we were having with the company we have now as far as customer service and dealing with patients. And I'm pretty confident that we're going to get a much better service from this company than we have been. Unfortunately, the company we're using now was actually sold to a larger company out of New Jersey. These people these are New England people, primarily in Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut area. So I think we're going to do very well with them.
Thank you.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a bid award for a town-wide on-call plumbing service.
Thank you, Council President, Council members. So this item is similar to the way that we do our electrical contract services. It allows us to have a vendor that is on call for us with locked-in rates, ranging depending on whether or not it's an emergency or not. Unfortunately, we only got one bidder, but it was very aggressive pricing, and it was compared to the master price agreement as well. So they definitely are in line, and it's only used if needed.
Thank you.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item E, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a bid award for landscape services at 3 school locations on behalf of the school department.
Good evening. Angelo Mancucci, Smithfield Public Schools. Before you is the RFP that was a grant that was submitted by the Rhode Island Department of Education in reference to 3 schools, Old County, Pleasant View, and La Perche, with basically enhancing the outdoor area to have a learning environment as far as plantings. And also incorporated in this would be bollards, rock bollards would be put around these areas, since they will be outside teaching environments. So that is incorporated also with this price. Our grant was for $141,000, and we did come in under the grant amount. I'll answer any questions that the council may have.
Angela, I know this is paid for with a grant, but it does seem a little high. Is that 140,000 for landscaping, gardens?
It's actually a lot of, in some areas, there's a lot of, like, there's a wind shade that's being installed at Pleasant View, which has a 7-foot deep footing. So there's a lot of work in small areas. The thing also to keep in mind is a lot of companies, this particular company, Central Nurseries, has done other communities based upon following this grant that's been put out by RIDE to all the communities. So, and they have done work for us. The same company has done work when we did our renovations on the 3 elementary schools. So we are familiar with this company.
Yeah, it looks like it's mainly the labor that's the biggest cost here.
Correct. In confined spaces also.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing, so, thank you.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Item F, consider, discuss, and act upon a bid award for the sale of the William Windsor Elementary School and authorizing the town manager to enter into a purchase and sales agreement.
Good evening, council members. Mike Phillips again, town planner. We received 3 proposals when we put the Windsor School out for bid. Town manager and I reviewed them and scored them. The Gemini Housing Corporation scored the highest, and I believe there's a recommended motion there for, to authorize the town manager and the town solicitor to negotiate a purchase and sales agreement with Gemini.
Thank you.
So-
Move passage.
Seconded.
Discussion?
Yeah, so is there a representative from Gemini or Smithfield Housing Authority here this evening?
I believe so, no.
No, they were not able to attend this evening.
Okay, I have numerous questions that I don't believe Mr. Phillips would be able to answer, so, and in that case, I figured they would be somebody to hear from them. This is a huge thing, so considering that fact, I would like to kick this to the next meeting at least, because I have many questions.
This project seems to be very long-term. Who would be in charge of the building right now during that period? I mean, you're signing a purchase and sales agreement. It says 975 days to obtain the issuance of a commitment letter and all, and I mean, that's a long period of time here. And during that time, is the town responsible for the expenses and the upkeep and the liability of this property?
So we've had those discussions as well, and the liability would, the building itself would have to be insured by the town still, because we would own it. We were partnering with them to have the oversight of the building, checking on the building, things like that. On a regular basis, we would just make sure, maintaining the grounds, with our staff, to make sure that, the grass is, we don't want to create a blight to the neighbors over there. So we would help with that, but they would take on the responsibilities, and they also were going to take responsibility on us completely shutting down the heating system, electricity and so forth, so there'll be no further bills besides just covering the asset. And the other point for the long term has to do with them being able to market this to different funding sources. They need the purchase and sales agreement in order to be able to go forward with that. Without that, they will not even be able to get to the table. So that's the time frame. It could be, a month, and they could be ready to go. It's just depending on, how fast the funding becomes available.
So you're trying to give them sufficient time, but it may not take that long.
Correct, as well as the requirement that it needs to meet the criteria that was discussed with the council prior as being that it would be restricted to age-restricted housing.
Who was on the evaluation committee?
It was me and Randy.
Okay.
Is FEMA still utilizing the building? Okay.
No.
So why wasn't there anyone from the housing authority on? Well, actually, I guess that would be a conflict.
Correct.
Because they're a applicant. So why is responsiveness and feasibility of proposed plan all in one? Those are two separate metrics.
That's not the way that it was spelled out in the RFP. This was copying specifically what was from the RFP, if I remember correctly. Do we have the RFP in there, Mike? Oh, did you have some? Okay.
And also, on this submission from Gemini, it says they had attached their preliminary schematic plans, the developer information, including their principals, and their financial statements, and we have none of those. And like I said, in addition to that, I have several questions in terms of the waiting list. Will this have preferential treatment to Smithfield residents? How many do we have? What's the definition of elderly housing per HUD? Does this include intergenerational units? So I have several questions that, again, I'd like to kick this to the next meeting to get those questions answered and have a representative here.
So to answer the question about the scoring part, the RFP is not right here, but that matrix specifically was what was advertised and went out to the bidders. So that's the reason why it's all included in one, was because it was advertised. That was the way the scoring was set up. They're more than happy to come. It was unfortunate, just the timing-wise, that they all had their retreat scheduled, and they weren't able to be here. They are more than happy to answer any questions. And as we've discussed before about what the restrictions are and so forth, that they had provided at a prior time, and we had spoken about. The other items was a 5-year current waiting list for elderly. And we had also requested as well, if I remember correctly, Mr. Phillips, that they would give preference to the Smithfield people first. And I think that was also in our discussions as well.
A couple of those were in our discussions. I have additional questions, such as, are they going to maintain the historic character of the building, as the other applicant stated that he would do? And again, I have many more questions, so I would not support voting yes on this because I do not have my questions answered, and I do not have the information that I need. So
So are you moving to table it?
there's already a
There's
motion on the
already a
table.
motion to pass, and there's a second.
Okay.
Yes. Would you like to speak? Sure.
Tom Hodgins, 200 Front and Pike. I'd appreciate it just so some of these things could be potentially addressed at the next session. I also had some questions about the rubric for the scoring. What are the current carrying costs monthly for the town for this property?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm not-
Because I draw the time period for this as being potentially 43 months that the town is going to incur carrying costs. It was 4 months for feasibility, 975 days to get the financing, and then 2 possible 90-day extensions. So I read that as being 43 months that this remains on the town's books to incur the maintenance costs. And then even at the end of the 43 months, if the housing authority doesn't get the permits that are needed, the town has to give back the deposit. So we've incurred 43 months of carrying costs, then we give back the deposit, and we're in the red for almost 4 years on this building, and then there's going to be another council down the road that's going to be presented with an RFP, I would assume. If the housing authority is awarded the bid on this, will the property be added to the tax rolls? These are going to be rental units, right?
They'd be financial, they would be low mod, restricted age, so there's a certain calculation for that. So there would be, we would be getting more than what we're getting today. But the exact calculation, Mr. Phillips, do you know off the top of your head? I think it's a 6% rule or something to that extent. I just don't.
It's an 8% rule. I believe.
8%, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be, if the Housing Authority gets this, it's going to be subject to the 8-law rule, the 8% rule that's currently being debated in the legislature. So there's limited tax benefit from awarding. If it's awarded to the other developer, the town is likely to see more tax revenue from that, right?
Potentially, yes.
And if it was awarded to the other developer in closing in a short period of time in the next 3 to 4 months, it would be added to the town's tax rolls at that point, right?
Yes, also too, I'm assuming, because I know you definitely looked at the proposals that were on there, as you can see the stipulations that all of the other costs could dramatically drop the price that the town will receive for it as well.
Right, but for the next 43 months on the Housing Authority, you're incurring the costs of carrying the building on the books, and you're not getting any tax revenue for it, if I'm reading that correctly. Has either of these developers discussed or requested a tax stabilization agreement with the town?
No.
Okay. My other question just relates generally to the rubric. The way there's a $10,000 difference in the price. The Housing Authority had offered $10,000 more, but with all these contingencies, the other bidder, $10,000 less, but almost no contingencies. There were no financing or permitting contingencies other than the Phase 1 environmental study.
But also too, as you read, that there was, if the amount of the asbestos abatement and so forth would be deducted from the price, so that the value is not stable.
Well, no, well, the way I read it, is the amount, well, I mean, the other bid just says it's assumes the cost to remediate it is less than 100,000. So if it's the Phase 1 cost to remediate is more than 100,000, then the P&S just isn't executed, and we know that in the next 3 or 4 months, right?
Say, I didn't hear the end of what you said, I'm sorry.
Sure, so the way I read the bid from the private developer is that if within the due diligence period, the amount to remediate any hazardous conditions is more than 100,000, then just the deal's off. Or the town could renegotiate with them. If it's going to be 150, maybe you say, well, okay, 150, but we'd know that within the next 3 or 4 months, and the deal's off. It's not like there's any extra contractual liability to the town under, at least from what's been provided, because there was no proposed purchase and sale agreement with the private developer. But I mean, I see that as the only change there, because the other development contract said this offer is not subject to any financing, public funding, or low-income housing tax credit stipulations. So I just have some questions about that. I'd also like to know whether the Housing Authority is committed to maintaining the historic exterior character of the building. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Souza, 2 Williams Road. So now I got numbers that I have to ask. So to the town manager, I remember a conversation before that behavioral company went in to use it as a school after there were leasehold improvements that we did to that building. I remember that, but I don't remember the number, and I'm not asking you to pull it off the top of your head. I don't know what the number is, but I think we've got to be, and I know you know this, we've got to be careful that we're at least going to get back that money because it increased the asset value, I think, of that building.
Correct. And I mean, and what happened too is that we made sure that we priced the lease on that paid ourselves back for that. So we're to the positive, but yes, it did increase the asset, but we also tried to go out multiple times for this property based on what that value should be, and we did not get any bids.
Interesting. Do you have
So
any-
this has been going on for a long time that we've been trying to get this, and what we're doing with this is tackling two things at the same time. We have a need for low, moderate, affordable housing. We want to make sure that we add housing for our seniors. We're tackling that, so we're also maintaining what's going into that without impacting the neighbors that are behind there as well. So there is a concern of a private developer going for a comp permit and having a very large development, which would be allowed there under the comp permit, and further impacting those residents that are back there. So that has come up as well. So that's kind of the avenue of why that approach. But no, I understand exactly. Trust me, I was always in the mindset we should get a lot more money for the building, but
Or at least
no one wants to
some.
pay it, though. Yes, yes.
That's why we improve our property, to get something back from it. I'm thinking as I'm sitting here, because I always think of these questions, I'm sitting, listening. It's in good shape, correct? Or in reasonable shape? I know there's some, probably always some issues.
The bones, yes, but I would definitely say to reach that $100,000 of hazardous in that building would be far exceeded.
So has anyone thought, is there a town department that could use it? And I'm not asking you to divulge anything today. I'm just thinking ahead of across the street, that I know there's a bunch of issues with that building.
I just have to jump in because because I feel like this is my 6th year on the council, and I have been hearing those suggestions for years. I mean, there definitely have been, correct me if I'm wrong, that's been explored. I mean, numerous avenues. We were even thinking for a second of talking to the school administration, seeing if they wanted to move out of there. I mean, when we talk about like stretching our brains and thought of this, I'll tell you, Mr. Souza, no stone was left unturned on this one.
And the other thing too is, there's a 5-year wait for senior housing, 5 years. So if we were able to put 30 families, take those houses off the frozen tax rolls and putting those people in the Windsor School.
Right.
So there's 30 houses that taxes, we'll just use this for an example, 3,000 may go to 6,000, or 3,000 may go to 8,000. So that was, when I had the discussions, to take some of these tax-free properties off the tax rolls and real tax dollars. We're gonna actually make money. If it goes the right way, we're gonna actually make money.
I hope. I 100% agree with you. It depends on the rules that you put into place or who gets in there. Because the other one, and it kind of goes against what you said, but I just want to bring it up. A lot of cities and towns are creating housing for police officers as they sort of move into town, teachers.
Workforce housing.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And a lot of schools are in this situation, private schools, some, because they can't afford to get teachers to move to that area. And I appreciate, having had elderly parents, I get what you're saying. It's just, maybe across the street is the other situation. But we got an asset, and maybe it should be, I don't know, something. But I
And if it
just wanted
goes
to
right,
bring
it'll
this
be
up.
utilized the right way.
Yeah, it's got to just be utilized the right way. And I think that's all my questions. Yeah, okay, thank you.
So a couple other considerations. I had asked Randy to reach out to the director of the Housing Authority to further define what elderly housing means. And thank you, Randy. I was sent a Section 202 supporting housing, and I was told that the director would be seeking the Section 202 supportive housing, which is why I mentioned the intergenerational dwelling units in the beginning, which is for elderly caregivers raising children. So this is not just for elderly, could possibly for children too, which is, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it doesn't say that in the purchase and sales. Additionally, it says in the purchase and sales, the buyer should have a period of 975 days to essentially, for the financing period. So could this potentially be sitting there doing nothing for 975 days if they don't get the financing? I don't think that does us any favors either. So again, I would appreciate that I get my questions answered and kick this to the next meeting. If not, I do support housing the elderly, but I cannot continue to support things and vote in the affirmative if I don't have the information that I need.
Yeah, I think it's time to make a decision on what to do with this school, because it has been a number of years. But at the same time, I think that, somebody from the Housing Authority should be here to thoroughly answer our questions before we make that final decision. And I think when we're talking about this amount of time, that this is going to take anyway, I think a couple of weeks isn't going to matter too much.
And I just want to reiterate, they didn't mean any disrespect for not being here tonight. That they were under the impression that a lot of those answers had been done before. So they had this planned out, this retreat, and I just know we needed to get rolling on this so we can try to get the funding. So I want you to know they didn't mean any disrespect not being here this evening.
Not taken. All right, so what's, yes.
Ed DeMail, 75 Whipple. And contain what Rachel said, as far as elderly, I agree with. Terminology and rhetoric sometimes is tweaked, and we don't know about it. And then come around the back door, and now what they said it's gonna be for, it's changed. Same with low to moderate income, like Michael said, is good. And then 2 or 3 years down the line, these legislatures in the State House, all of a sudden, well, we need Section 8 in here now, in the same buildings that we have low to moderate income. I'm just out of the box thinking, has to be plain language in these contracts for what it says and what it's gonna be used for, not pertaining to other issues. And I'd just like to add one more thing. Everybody loves Chief Salsa, but did we make profit on that land that we're not utilizing, that we went?
That could be for public comment. We're talking about the school right now.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll say that. But just to tweak the language, cut and dry plain.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there, what do we have?
The motion is a second. To
Motion
approve.
on this?
What is the motion? Is it the motion to approve it? Or postpone it?
Approved.
Approve it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Moving on to G. Consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing the town manager to enter into contract through the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement 227 with Dell Technologies for Office 365 licensing in an amount not to exceed $14,134.87.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to introduce Mr. DeShano, who put a ton of work into this and has been actually working with the State Cybersecurity Subcommittee as a member of that and helped actually facilitate getting these grants rolling to all of the communities. So I don't want to take his thunder away, but I want to give him the credit for it.
Thank you, sir. Dave DeShano with the town's IT department. So this would move the town to the Office 365 platform, which I think is extremely needed given our current circumstances. It would move our email and our office applications, would get updated office applications compared to what we're using now. And I'd have a lot more oversight on the email portion and security portion of things. And it'd be paid for with grant money.
All right. Has he got a new office yet? Have you been in there?
We actually decided we're going to move a bunch of stuff from our offices and stick it in his.
Fire hazard.
Well, don't tell the chief while he's here, okay?
Really do.
Thank you.
Move passage.
Any discussion? Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item H, consider, discuss, and act upon acceptance of all public improvements and land dedications, maintenance bond, and release of performance bond associated with the Maury Farms subdivision.
Good evening again, Mike Phillips, Town Planner. I believe you have a memo regarding the Maury Farms development. This is a subdivision that's up off of Branch Pike. Work on it really began back in the probably 2013-14 timeframe, and the road has been done for a while, and now the developer has asked for release of his performance bond and for the town to take over acceptance of the roadway. And there's also a recommendation in there to retain a maintenance bond in the amount of $5,000 for the one-year guarantee period. So.
Thank you. I have a quick question, Mr. Phillips. I'm just correct me if I'm wrong, or just guide me in the right direction here. Maori Farms, okay, this is what we talked about a few years ago, the Mary Maori house and people living, that we had the agreement with individuals living there, and, right, is this
No.
the same thing?
No.
Okay.
This is a subdivision.
I have no idea what this is.
It's up, if you go up Route 7 and branches off onto Branch Pike going into North Smithfield is a small subdivision road off just before you get to the town line.
Can we have Frank change this name? Because honestly, we got the Maori Farms, we got the Maori everything.
You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Maori.
I don't think Mary would like this in her name anyway, so just saying.
Thank you.
All right.
It's a nice subdivision.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item I, consider, discuss, and act upon acceptance of all public improvements and land dedications, maintenance bond, and release of performance bond associated with the Canton Court subdivision.
Again, this is another subdivision that's been completed, and the developer has asked for us to release his bond and convert and accept the public improvements, and a recommendation from the planning board to retain a maintenance bond for $5,000.
Is this located off of Clock Road?
Yes, yep.
So should that make us nervous because of the problems in that area with the?
They've so far avoided, they're on the other side of the hill, so they're not getting the runoff in this area, so. This is across the road from the Deer Run subdivision, so.
Well, I'm worried about them creating, what about creating water problems?
There's really been nothing reported coming out of this development, so it's a different drainage area. It's, you know.
So it would not have any impact on the neighborhood below, which, you know, we've just had a study done on the Hillview.
Highview area.
Highview area.
We haven't heard anything of an issue coming out of this detention pond. I mean, it's a fairly small road, and no one's complained about, you know, same kind of problems that we've seen in the other developments, so.
Pleasure of the council.
Move passage.
We have a second?
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public comment, if anyone would like to come up and speak, state your name and your address.
Rich Donatelli, 99 Dean Avenue. With regards to the sale of Windsor, that's been sitting there, town's had it for 3 years, since July of 2021. And based on the agreement here, or whatever you're going to be entering into, we're talking another 3 years. I don't understand why you wouldn't wait 30 days to get more questions answered. That's my only question. I think you should reconsider it at a future meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
You don't have
Ed
to.
Mail 75 Whipple, in reference to what Mike was saying, up in Maori, near Bryant, up a ways to the left, them are gonna be single-family houses? Is that what the construction is?
What? That's not what that's not, no.
Oh, I thought it was a
No, no.
complex he was talking about. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll circle back later.